CCTV's current affairs commentator Einar Tangen joins us now to talk a little bit more about all of this. Sri Lankan Prime Minister making this visit to Beijing, keen on keeping this Belt and Road Initiative moving forward. Can they make some headway, do you think?
Absolutely, Mike. This is a situation where they really have been trying to balance the powers between India, the U.S. and China, but China is the big behemoth. They're the ones who are actually putting money on the table, which is often the case these days. So they really want to come to some sort of accommodation, despite the political rhetoric. The fact is that there is a need.
Yeah. So you think the port city, at some point, they'll get this thing worked out?
Yeah, they do. They need the capacity building. There was a protest. A few hundred people gathered around. They're concerned about the environmental impact. The government said that they're addressing these, but the need here is for jobs. They need to desperately restart their economy, and they want to be part of this Belt and Road Initiative. If they're going to do that, they need the tools to do that. You can't be part of it if you don't have a port.
Yeah, and Wang Yi continuing his trip in Myanmar. Can you talk to us a little bit about the ties there between China and Myanmar, economically and politically? How have they changed?
Well, there have been a number of issues. The rebel issue is the one that is most troublesome. China's received an influx of refugees over the years, and there's going to be a real question about what the position of this new government is going to be. Meanwhile, there are other things. There is a mines and there's a dam project, as was mentioned. These types of things. But it's once again, when you start looking at this is a regional cooperation issue. The same with Sri Lanka. This is about how these countries believe they can benefit from the Belt and Road Initiative and how they come to terms with it. There's always going to be irritants. South China Seas is out there. There's going to be business practices issues in terms of frictions. But in the end, it's always about how you're going to access this market and benefit from it. And it's a question of how you balance these.
Yeah, you brought up the Myanmar dam project. Talk to me more, maybe in general terms, about China as it moves forward with the Belt and Road Initiative, about these hiccups, having to overcome some of these hurdles, the political dimensions within these countries. We've brought up Sri Lanka, we're talking about Myanmar, and just pushing these things forward, having to deal with that.
Well, this is the big question that everybody has. I mean, China's been assembling the tools, the AIIB, BRICS banks, all sorts of Silk Road Fund. They have the financial tools to do it. They certainly have the construction expertise. The question is, how are they going to deal with this kind of myriad of very, very different economies and political systems? I mean, ever since what you're seeing today is a very dynamic shift from what was the norm post-World War II. And you're seeing the emergence of alternative means, not as a challenge to others, simply as ways of addressing it. The $6 trillion that is needed in infrastructure in Southeast Asia alone is not going to be solved in one swoop. But it is needed, and these countries need to work together. China needs to figure out how to deal with each of these countries separately, because they're not going to be a cookie-cutter situation where one size fits all. It's going to be a real interesting test of their ability.
And speaking of interesting, there's this amazing statistic from Bloomberg. China's overseas acquisitions setting new records. Bloomberg saying just in the first quarter of this year, overseas acquisitions by Chinese companies that have just been announced amounted to $113 billion. That's just off $121 billion achieved in the whole of 2015. I mean, this is pretty unprecedented, isn't it?
Well, it is, but what you're really seeing here is a shift away from treasuries and the typical holdings that the Chinese were having into more hard assets. And I think this is something that you'll continue to see, despite concerns about foreign exchange reserves and things like this. I think the Chinese government is very interested in making sure that its companies are able to expand abroad and take advantage of not only the regional Belt and Road Initiative, but also to climb the kind of technological third-tier tertiary economy things. They need more expertise, they need more middle management, and they certainly need to create a better spirit of innovation within China so that they can compete worldwide and escape this middle income trap that they're so concerned about.
Einar Tangen joining us from Beijing. Thanks so much.